Hi, everybody. Welcome to the CoCo Show. I'm John.
I'm Aaron.
And today, Aaron, we're going to be talking about Super Pitfall.
Super Pitfall.
Now, this is the third game in the Pitfall series, correct?
Yes.
I want to turn back the clock all the way back to the first game in the Pitfall series. Do you remember the first time that you saw Pitfall?
Absolutely. I remember playing it. It was in a store, because we didn't have a Atari 2600 at the time. And I was like, wow, look at the graphics on that. It was so nice. And it was a game that you went over multiple screens, which again, this was, I know this stuff sounds sort of dopey now, but I mean, this was sort of a stunner. You're like, whoa, you're not trapped on one screen. Other games had sort of done that, but I mean, this game looked good. The Gators looked like Gators you could swing across them. Indiana Jones was, of course, a big deal, that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. Right game, right time. Yeah. And of course, the Activision style of the day with the nice graphics, they're very colorful, the way they did stuff. They were very, they knew all the tricks. And so this game fell right in line. Now, it's not a game I go back to often now, but at the time, I thought it was quite impressive.
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw this, I was still really, really young. In fact, it might have been before I even saw the Nintendo. I saw Pitfall there. My next door neighbor had a variety of 2600 games, and I definitely remember seeing Pac-Man, Defender, and Pitfall. And Pitfall was the most impressive because, like you said, it felt like a real world in there.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a static screen. It was amazing. And the fact that they were able to do something like that with the incredibly small technical limitations of the Atari was amazing. And the fact that they were able to do Pitfall II on the Atari was even more amazing.
I believe Pitfall II on the Atari actually had extra circuitry in it, as I recall, for the music.
Wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
Pitfall II is my favorite of the series.
Now, explain for people that aren't so familiar, what makes Pitfall II different than Pitfall I?
Pitfall II it's funny, Pitfall was so popular, it got a Saturday morning cartoon.
Right.
And they actually implemented the characters in the cartoon in the game. I believe his niece was Rhonda, I believe was her name, and also a Quick Claw, which was this like mountain lion thing that lived with Pitfall Harry was in it.
Was this a speaking character?
Yeah, yeah. And so when you start Pitfall 2, you can see Quick Claw like cowering underneath, and so and then you go rescue her, and you also have to get a diamond. It's funny, just probably not even 2 months ago, I finally beat Pitfall 2 on the Atari 8-bit, and then lo and behold, I happened to pick the only version that has extra levels in it. So I was totally distraught because I've spent a long time trying to beat this. So
you didn't actually beat it then.
Well, shut up, dude. That's exactly the kind of jerk statement that's why I was pissed off in the first place. But yeah, I like Pitfall 2. The mechanics, again, you get the solid, beautiful, colorful graphics of the first game, but more fleshed out. You've got all the water elements. The music was dynamic, so it would just play a normal song, and then when you got gold, it would pep up, and when you got killed, it's like
Lionheart in that regard.
And when you got killed, it'd be sort of a dirgy version, and it had a checkpoint system for when you died.
Was there any sort of persistent save involved on the Atari computer version?
No,
okay.
at least not to my knowledge.
No password or anything like that.
And the CoCo version was quite good, by the way, of Pitfall 2. It wasn't as colorful as some of the other versions, but it was every bit as good. The sound was great on it, And that's really where I played spent most of my hours playing Pitfall 2 was on the CoCo. Have you played much Pitfall 2?
No. In fact, I've only played Pitfall 1. I've never played Pitfall 2, so I'm going to have to give that a shot. In fact, maybe the CoCo version should be the version that I
absolutely.
dip my toe in the water
with. Nick just mentioned it, and I totally forgot about this because I've got one of these, but the Pitfall 2 on the CoCo actually supports the speech pack.
Oh.
So added bonus. I believe, I think it, I don't know, it's just strictly for music. I can't remember. It's been so long since I fooled with it. But yeah, that was something I wanted to put on the list, that's for sure.
Now, before we dive into Super Pitfall,
you've been tangling with something about for like hours.
This is the all-time most difficult package to open on the air of all time. But
I've been watching it while talking. It's been pretty funny.
I have cut the final parts of the tape.
Okay.
And we are ready for...
This is something from our good buddy Jonas.
Yeah, this is part 2 of the gift that he sent us. If you remember last week, we unwrapped a picture of the ad that was blown up.
Yeah, it was real nice, yeah.
And here we have actually blown up the patent for the Tandy color computer.
Look at that, and it's got everything, all the different angles. Oh, that's so clever. Gosh, I would have never thought to do that.
Yeah.
It's got the patent stuff up through here.
And this is
great.
This is a perfect thing because, I never thought about this, but patents are all, in the public domain. And so, like, thank you so much for taking the trouble of blowing this thing up. This is going to, now, we'll have to fight over who gets what.
Well, no, you can leave it. It should be displayed as one piece. You can display it up here. It looks nice. Look at that. I saw a guy on LGR do some stuff with patents. That was sort of his gimmick. But I think that's super clever. That's so nice. Yeah. That'll look great. You can put that right up there, and then you have it all in one nice display.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jonas. This is super, super cool. Now,
I would have never thought of that.
You want to take a guess at when this patent was filed?
78.
1983.
What's it for? Is this the CoCo 2?
It's the CoCo 2, I bet. It's got to be, maybe.
Look at that button right there.
Oh, no, it was filed in 80. It was granted in 83.
There you go. Yeah. Pretty neat.
Yeah.
Pretty neat.
Pretty cool.
I love it. Thank you.
All right, Aaron.
That'll be great. That'll be great to put up.
We've put this off long enough. It's time to delve into the darkness. I mean, it's time to talk about Super Pitfall, which I guess you are delving into the darkness.
Sort of, yeah. So Super Pitfall released well into the game in 88. I have to say I never saw this one on my original run with the CoCo, and was surprised when it popped up on our second go-around. This is a game done by the man, the myth, the legend, Steve Jork, for Activision. This requires a CoCo 3 and 128K of memory. And I'll tell you, and I don't know how you played this. This game really needs two buttons. You need the deluxe joystick on this one. And so I ended up playing this on the keyboard for a couple of reasons, which I'll get into. But I played every time I played this was on the keyboard.
So if you play this with the deluxe joystick, you get full 2-button support.
I don't know.
Okay. I don't think that you do. I don't think that the deluxe joystick has 2-button support.
Well, yeah, it absolutely does. The 2-button version has 2-button support.
It's got full 2 buttons.
It's got 2 buttons. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I used to have one. It was awesome. So what is Super Pitfall? Well, Super Pitfall, like Boat mentioned, sort of the last in the well, it's not really the last in the Pitfall series, but it was the third in the Pitfall series. But it's sort of the last. It's definitely the last one in the CoCo. This game is it's sort of like, it's a lot like Pitfall II with a different it's a different engine, and it looks markedly different, doesn't it, Boat? You play the Pitfall Harry, the great Pitfall Harry. Pitfall Harry, for whatever reason, is dressed like an idiot.
That's a little harsh.
I hate what he's wearing.
He's wearing a pith helmet, and
that's a pith helmet.
Yeah.
It looked like, I don't know. It looks like a coal miner.
He's wearing a blue jumper and some green pants. Yeah, it's like Mr. Green Jeans.
He looks like a Keystone Cop or something.
Yeah, he does. He looks like a
Keystone
Cop.
And of course, they did the Keystone Cops, and I never liked what he looked like.
He doesn't look cool.
One of the first things you're going to do in this game is find out that Pitfall Harry can also obtain a gun, which I also don't like.
Yeah.
Pitfall Harry never had a gun in the first 2 games, so in this game, instead of just dodging all the critters, you can light them up. And I will say, I killed these critters with glee and delight, because these critters were irritating as all get out.
They're also, relative to the size of Harry, they are ginormous.
Yeah, these are now the usual cast of characters are here. You've got frogs. You've got snakes. You've also got bats. You've got weird bugs. You've got scorpions. You've got like piranhas. You've also got, apparently, now I had to read this, I never saw them, but you've also apparently got Quick Claw and Rhonda, who are in this one as well, and the Diamond. So like I said, a lot of this goes sort of hand in hand with the second game. This game has 270 screens. On the and I guess I don't know if the CoCo version is any different. Now, I know this version of Pitfall got released on the CoCo and I believe on the NES.
Correct.
Now a lot of people have played the NES version of this, and not so many have played the CoCo. I'm guessing you've probably played the NES
played
version
both.
of this. So yeah, obviously. So how would you say this stacks up? Just before we get into the meat of it, how does this stack up? Is it pretty much the same?
I'll tell you what. let's talk about the game first.
Okay.
It makes sense, and then we'll go back and I'll tell you.
Okay, fair enough. So, one thing that struck me right away is this game is not super quick. Okay, let me backtrack further. Just my personal experience. I got this game some months ago and played it and put it away. And when I went back to play it again this week, I could not get this game to run on my actual CoCo to save my life. I don't know what I was doing wrong. I've got two versions of this. One version is the original, and one's like a version with a speed hack that's used to as I mentioned, occasionally I mentioned, L. Curtis Boyle and a few others are doing basically upgrades to let some of these games run at a quicker pace if you have a newer processor installed, which I do. For whatever reason, I don't know if I've forgotten the method to do it, but I couldn't get this thing to work. It kept crashing. I don't know why. But I have played this on my CoCo, but I was forced to play it on the emulator, which wasn't really a bad thing. The virtual CoCo emulator is an excellent emulator. So I played it on both. I used the keyboard on both. Like I said, the one thing you can do in this, since you shoot, is you can shoot and you can jump. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know how much you use shooting. I'm guessing not that much, since you were probably using the joystick and the keyboard in combination.
If you're using the joystick, you can use space for your gun.
Right.
And it is incredibly awkward, to say the least, to have to take your hands off your controls to hit the space bar.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming, and the thing is, you don't have to get the gun or shoot. But it helps a lot. Yeah. I will say this, and you have a limited amount of ammo, and there are multiple guns in the game. I noticed that too. Now, one thing you're going to notice when you load this up, because Pitfall Harry starts in front of these sort of like, I don't know, like ruins. Mm-hmm. And one thing you're going to notice right away is that everything in this, compared to your previous outings, is sort of pudgier looking, or doughier looking. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense, Bo?
Well, what they tried to do was they tried to zoom in on the action, because we're playing with newer hardware here, and so they wanted to make everything more detailed. And in order to make things more detailed, you have to blow everything up. Unfortunately, because of the art direction here, in blowing things up and making it more detailed, it's just like you said, everything looks kludgier.
Yeah,
it doesn't look nearly as cool as when things were less detailed but further away.
Yeah, I mean, and this, if you combine that with sort of a kind of the dopey way it runs, mm-hmm. the whole operation just feels kind of dopey.
Yeah.
Even when you shoot the bullets from the gun, the bullets are big and dopey looking and weird.
They move at a very slow speed.
Yeah, it's real. And the snakes and all the critters are kind of dopey looking. Mm-hmm. It just, when you're used to the aesthetic from the first couple games, and I thought the second game carried it over pretty well.
Yeah.
This one just doesn't. Something else that I thought was strange is in the first one, or in the second game, you had these waterfalls, and you had water, and it was done in a certain way that was pretty pleasing. In this game, the water doesn't do anything, and the waterfall is just sort of almost like another character to avoid.
Yeah.
And they're weird looking. I didn't like the way this game looked.
Yeah,
I never have.
I mean, this game definitely is under the influence of Super Mario Brothers, where you've got a character. If you look at Pitfall Harry's jumping animation,
yeah,
it is right out of Super Mario Brothers.
He does the arms thing. I never thought about that.
And this is just another example of, just because you can make a game sort of look like Super Mario Brothers, it's not going to have the same charm.
You think that when they put this together, that was the plan, is to come up with something like that?
I mean, how could you not think that?
Well, I mean, it's funny. I never really thought. Well, coming at this from the CoCo.
Yeah. If you look at it from the perspective, okay, Pitfall Harry really set the standard for these massive adventure games. Let's keep that exploration viewpoint, but let's add gameplay that mimics what can be found in Super Mario Brothers. Yeah. This is what you'd come up with.
Now, the gameplay in this is your standard run and jump and go down ladders and jump pits. But the one thing that they added in this that I didn't appreciate this is something I don't remember in the other games, are just blind drops to your death.
Most famously, this game is probably the most famous thing about this game is the fact that the first thing that you do is you encounter a ladder, and you're like, oh, it's Pitfall. I'm going to go down this ladder, find some gold. No, you go down the ladder, it drops you into a pit of spikes, and you die. And
you die. And there are plenty of places where you have jumps that appear too wide, and I made some of these jumps, and you have to. This requires pixel perfect accuracy and timing. Now, I think on the CoCo it's probably a little easier due to the speed, But I can imagine. I've actually played this on the Nintendo before I played it on the CoCo. Like I said, I didn't realize there was a CoCo version of this until the last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had played the Nintendo version of this because I loved Pitfall. And so when I saw Super Pitfall, who could say no to that?
Exactly.
And I hated it on the it on the Nintendo. And from what I've heard, it is a oft-hated game. And amongst the reasons it's oft-hated is to beat it, you have to go through a bunch of crazy secret stuff that's almost impossible to even figure out.
Well, not to mention the fact that when you're playing this game in like the real way, everything is hidden. You know, you have to turn. One thing we should talk about is the option screen of this game. Okay. So this game, there's a bunch of different ways to play it. I will say this. This is yet another example of a CoCo game that does the right thing when it comes to your option screen.
Yeah,
okay?
The option screen was easy to use and it had a wealth of options for one.
Now, the way to play this game and actually have fun is to play what's called the Explore mode.
Where you don't die. Which is, I did play that, yeah.
And that lets you basically go through and collect the treasures. And, I mean, you can die, but you have infinite lives, basically. You start from where you left off. And that's the only way you can have any kind of fun with this. You can also toggle an option that turns the invisible treasures to visible, which why you'd make treasure invisible
doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
It also makes it that's totally non-fun.
Yeah. So the option screen is essential. It's difficult to get to the Explore mode because it is in there with the 1 and 2 player options. It's like 1-player game, 2-player game, Explore mode. It's not immediately apparent how to find that.
Having the ability to change the difficulties per player, it is great. That's I mean that is something we've seen that a couple times now. I'm trying to think of the last time we saw it, Boaster. We just saw it recently.
Is it on Popeye where you can do that? Or Sailor Man?
I think it was on. I think you're right. So that's a welcome option. But really, if you're going to sit down and play this 2 players, 1 player is going to be bored to death probably for a while, or the game's going to end quick.
Right.
This game, let me ask you. Now, I gave this game quite a bit of attention. I played it a lot a couple weeks ago. Now I've played it a lot this week, as much as I could. But I mean. Did you have much success? I mean, I wasn't sure what success was. Did you ever rescue anyone, for example? No. I never did either. I didn't even see anybody to rescue. I know they were out there.
Yeah, I viewed this as just like another one of the Pitfall games where I don't know what to do in Pitfall. You know, in Pitfall, I just kind of, hang around the world, try and get by places and stuff, jump around.
Well, Pitfall 2, it's sort of, there's a natural progression of the way you go down the caverns that works. And so I thought, they've lined up treasure that way. I mean, there's a couple of secret elements of the second Pitfall that become obvious from your idle wanderings. Okay, in case you don't know it, there's this balloon, for example, that floats by, and you're like, I wonder what that's balloon's for. Well, if you time it right, you can hold that balloon, and it carries you to a different area.
There's a balloon in this game,
There is a balloon in this, but the natural progression of the way you descend down the levels you figure it out on your own.
Yeah, this is much more open-ended. This, you have the freedom to go almost anywhere from the beginning, and you have lots and lots of choices. I think this was a game that they were hoping that you would map. This actually reminds me a lot of the last Spectrum game that we played, Underworld. Which did you play a little Underworld? No, you were down for the count.
Yeah.
But it was very similar in that you just have this massive world to explore, and you're left to your own devices. So now it's time for me to talk a little bit about the NES version.
Okay, please.
Okay, the NES version and the CoCo version are very, very similar, with only one big. I didn't notice the speed difference that much. I didn't think that this game, I read reports that this game runs slow. Yeah. I didn't think it ran particularly slow. I mean, it wasn't the fastest thing in the world, but it didn't hinder my enjoyment. What does set the NES version apart and make it a better game is that you are not window boxed. You get to see so much more of the screen. And in a game like this, that is very important because the more you can see, the more you can try to avoid. This is very similar to when we covered Load Runner for the Game Boy. Load Runner in its computer form, your dude is real small, you can see the whole stage, it's fun to play. On the Game Boy, they did exactly what they did with Super Pitfall. Exactly. They made your dude bigger, more detailed, more dopey looking, and let you see less of the stage.
I'm assuming, let's go on the assumption that the letterboxing on this was the limitation of the system with what was happening. Because and we know Jork's he's one of the top, if not the top guy. So
and again, this is why I think that this game needs 128K RAM, is because the CPU is so weak comparatively to other systems of the day. They had to make it up in RAM, just like the Donkey Kong emulator.
Mm-hmm.
They make it all up in RAM.
Right. I wish I could say more about this, but I mean, it's a simple game, and when you break it down, you run around. I will say they put a lot of stuff annoyingly too low for your gun. And so that makes it hard to jump. It's irritating.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are little indentations that sometimes you can get into and kind of whack them.
Mm-hmm.
They do give you, you get a goodly amount of mana. I wanted to ask you, what is the little ace of spades you pick up for? Do we have any ideas on that?
No idea.
I wasn't sure about that either. I didn't remember. Of course, again, that was something that wasn't in the second one. This game, I think there could be something here. It's not like I was repulsed by the game. I didn't hate it. And the thing is, on the CoCo, this is quite an achievement. That's a lot of screens smashed into a cartridge. Like you said, it's not like, it moves slow, but it's not like glacial. It's like you're screwed. I mean, it's just that I found the game sort of, I hate to say it, it's kind of pointless. If you play this for score, you got something, and you can actually pad your score if you know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sort of played it for score and just to see how long I could survive. But since I'm used to playing Pitfall II so much, where you actually have your mission to get to, and I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere or know where to go.
Yeah.
It made it more frustrating to me. So if I play it for points, I have a lot more fun than I playing it to go on the assumption I could try to beat something. But otherwise the deaths are just like Pitfall. I accidentally hit the scorpion. I accidentally touched a snake. I only saw one scorpion, but I saw tons of snakes, tons of bugs, and those huge frogs are everywhere too. And the frogs will chase you around, so it's one of those. This one's one of those where I'm going to just say it's a mixed bag, and leave it at that.
Yeah, I don't hate this as much as a lot of people do. A lot of people think that this is one of the worst games ever, and I think a lot of that just is because it comes on the heels of Pitfall II, which was such a great game.
Curtis mentions that you can collect all. He's in chat. He mentions you can get all this different card suits for points, but I never saw anything but the spades. I never saw any
they're
of the
just
suits.
too far buried under the ground.
Because due to my suckery on this thing. Curtis actually dug us up a couple magazine articles on this one. This is a Rainbow from 88. They say that the graphics are great. It provides hours of enjoyment for adventures of every age, and this one belongs in your CoCo library. So they were very high on it. And not too bad.
One wonders how many games there were left to add to the CoCo library at this time.
Well, fair enough. But they were still cooking halfway decently back in those days. I should mention that this was a $30 cartridge. Not too bad.
Was that that was about the going rate for carts, wasn't it?
At that year, I don't know what in that I was out the door by then, so I don't know what they were going for. It's funny, like, so we didn't end up buying that many carts, so it's my experience in that is pretty limited. And this one, like I said, I have to say I really was surprised that a game that is this. Again, you're only getting a game like this on this and the NES. That's got to be super rare.
Yeah.
That those are the only two systems that get a game.
Very odd. Yeah, very odd. I would like to be privy to the negotiations where they were like, well, we know we got to put this out on the NES because the NES is the NES. Let's put it out on the CoCo 3. Like, I wonder if Radio Shack gave them a bunch of extra money or, something like that, because it's just weird that they wouldn't put it out on the C64 or something like that.
I will say, they went to the main man, so I'm guessing that Short did the best he could, given what he had to work with. But an interesting, if anything, an anomaly and something worth checking out just for the sake of doing it. And if you can beat this one, I'd like to shake your hand. Yeah. Because it's definitely a toughie one.
Yeah, I have seen speed runs of the NES version.
Yeah.
Which is in fact
a speed run.
Yeah,
how long does it take?
Well, you can exploit so many of the collision detection to jump through walls and things like that.
Oh, I see.
And so you can do it, I think, in like 20 minutes or something like that. It's still not a short speed run, but it is interesting to see all the different hacks. No one has attempted that as far as I can tell on the CoCo version.
Yeah, I didn't see a whole lot of. I saw some versions out there, but it's not like of any great length. You know, like, and so I felt better about myself. It's not like someone was out there. I feel like I'm fairly competent. And I will say the one thing I should mention: the CoCo keyboard is it does a good job for these games. I mean, the CoCo 3's got a really good keyboard. The 2-button joystick, because there was the deluxe joystick that was with 1 button, and there was a 2-button version, as far as I remember. You know, there was some support for it. You know, but this would be one. Yeah, having to move your hand off the keyboard to shoot is a pain.
Now, I mean, in a way, it wasn't that big of a deal because the gun is not, like you said, it's not necessary. But that, in a way, that made it even more frustrating. It's like, why did they put this in the game at all?
I was shooting crap left and right.
Were you?
Yeah, just because I got mad. Yeah, I got real mad, basically.
All right. Well, as we close out the show, I do want to remind everybody that we do record this show when we record the CoCo show on Fridays on Twitch, twitch.tv/Amigos Retro Gaming. And if you would like to support our channel over there, you can. Our subscribers over there are Silver Streak 72, Retro Jerry, Jost 80, Bike Me, 6MMBRX, Chris Folds, Rushi MSX, Brother Bill, The Slow Norse, Anguish Auteur, Piplo, Go Sub, La Sooner, G Vebke, Macintosh Librarian, Still Adolescing, Frodo NL, and Wing Chun Wolf. Thank you guys for subbing in. If you have an Amazon Prime subscription and you would like to sub to our channel, that actually helps us and it costs you nothing. So that would be cool. And of course, I would be remiss to not mention all of our fantastic Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/The CoCo Show. We got Buttons, Jeff Landreth, Graham Vebke, Wing Chun Wolf, and Curtis Boyle.
You know, I forgot to mention this to you, but does your CoCo have the enhanced chip that you can use the hack for speed on it?
No, I don't.
You don't have the cool guy chip.
I think you've got to put that in yourself. I don't think that left any of the factors.
When I was playing this a month or so ago, I will say that does bring it up speed wise some. That chip. It's not hard to install if you've got a CoCo. And Curtis patches a lot of games, and it does make a difference. I mean, it's not like you're getting like a 50% speed boost, but I mean, you can tell a difference when you have those hacks. And so it's something I would recommend if you're handy with a soldering iron.
Okay, cool. All right, well, we will be back in March with the next episode of the CoCo Show. So thank you all for listening. See you next time.
Bye-bye.